the structure of the course at Keele. So we have had philosophy at Keele since 1949. So Keele is one of the oldest of the new universities. And we've had some pretty distinguished professors here, which you might have heard of. I don't know whether you have heard of Richard Swinburne. You might if you have studied some philosophy of religion. You probably could not escape it. You might have heard of Anthony Flew. He is often, or he was rather often on the media, and several others. Now, why should you study philosophy at Keele? I think that most of you are here for a single honor degree, some of you for a dual honor degree. Well, we have a wide range of options, and if you are studying for the dual honors degrees, then the program is devised in such a way as to prepare you for further studies in the subject, so that you would not be at a disadvantage, say, vis-a-vis other students who have not studied philosophy in combination with another subject. And in particular, what we aim to do is to give you a good balance of modules in theoretical philosophy, for example, metaphysics or epistemology on the one hand, and practical philosophy, so modules in, say, moral philosophy or political philosophy, so that you have a good map of the subject. And also, we want to give you a sense of the history of philosophy. Philosophy does not stand to its history as science stands to its history. Okay? So, in the case of science, past scientific theory the history of science is the history of scientific theory which have been refuted. On the other hand, we still engage with philosophers from the past at a philosophical level. Of course, when we discuss something like the problem of mind-body dualism, we discuss it in a slightly different way from the way in which Descartes would have discussed it, but we still engage with their views critically, and these philosophers have informed the way in which contemporary philosophers look at, for example, the problem of the relationship between the mind and the body. This is what the first year looks like. You have some compulsory modules, such as 10 problems of philosophy and how to think, and a number of elective modules, such as moral philosophy, ancient philosophy, continental philosophy, justice, power and democracy, and environmental ethics. I will tell you a little bit about a few of these, but not all. First of all, how to think. We often say this, we teach you how to think, we do not teach you what to think. And so how to think is a skills-based module that really tells you a little bit about how to construct a good argument and how to spot bad arguments or fallacies in arguments. And of course, having this kind of critical skills is the bread and butter of a philosophical education. So this module gives you the skills that you need in order to do well whatever it is that you study in philosophy, whether you'd like to focus on metaphysics, which is the study of what there is or exists, or whether you study epistemology, which is the theory of knowledge, or whether on the other hand you want to do moral philosophy or political philosophy or philosophy of science, and so on and so forth. So in some ways, as you might have realized, philosophy is a very broad subject, yeah, because it ranges from philosophy of religion to political philosophy, yeah, from philosophy of art to philosophy of mind, yeah. But on the other hand, it's a very unified subject because the skills that you need to do well in philosophy of art are the same kind of skills that you need to do well in moral philosophy or metaphysics. One of the other compulsory modules is called 10 Problems of Philosophy, and this module introduces you to certain recurring problems in philosophy, or problems that are often discussed, such as the problem of the relationship between the mind and the body. what is the mind? Is there more to the mind than the brain? Or is it better to think of the mind as a computer, so in terms of the functions that it performs, rather than in terms of what it is made of? And generally, is talk about the mental reducible to just talk about the physical? And if it is not, then how can we think of the mind? Should we necessarily think about it as a kind of immaterial soul, which would commit us to some ontology that some people might find suspicious? Or, on the other hand, are there other ways in which we can think about the mind which is still compatible with many of the scientific assumptions that we often operate with? Or you might discuss other problems which are drawn from that part of philosophy which is called epistemology, or the theory of knowledge. So, for example, a question that is often raised in that context is the question about whether we have any evidence for the existence of the external world. And many of you will have seen the film, The Matrix, yeah? Do we have criteria to make distinctions between dreaming experiences and experiences of the external world? So these are the kind of questions that are addressed in 10 Problems of Philosophy. As I said, other modules are modules like moral philosophy. I'll say a little bit about this, a little bit perhaps about moral philosophy. Some of you may have done some of it at a level. This module answers the question, how should I act? And looks at how philosophers have answered that question. You know, some philosophers have claimed that when we act, we should act in accordance with certain fundamental principles or rules. And these philosophers are called deontologists. Some other philosophers, on the other hand, believe that the main consideration that we should bear in mind is one concerning consequences. What are the consequences of my actions? And we should decide how to act on the basis of that. And these philosophers are called consequentialists or utilitarians. Finally, there are other philosophers who think that is actually those are the wrong questions to ask. And that what one should do in moral philosophy is not focus on whether I should perform this action or that action, but rather what kind of person I should become, what kind of virtues of character I should cultivate. And they think that if we focus on that, if we focus on what kind of person we should become, what kind of virtues we should develop, then we will turn ourselves, I suppose, into the kind of individuals who will naturally perform moral actions. There are several other modules. Continental philosophy is one of them. Justice, Power and Democracy, Ancient Philosophy, where there is an element of Eastern philosophy. Okay, when you get to the second year, again, you have some core modules that are compulsory and some optional modules. The two compulsory core modules are Epistemology and Metaphysics 1 and Pursuit of the Good. Epistemology and Metaphysics 1 is a module that focuses on the history of philosophy, on philosophers such as Descartes, Locke, and Berkeley. Pursuit of the Good focuses, again, it's an historically based module that focuses on Kant and Aristotle. So what these modules do is to give you a good grounding in the history of philosophy. Also, you get a chance to have a go at reading important philosophical texts, such as Descartes' Meditations, or such as Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, or Kant's Groundwork for the Metaphysics of Morals. So that you get a sense of how philosophers write. So, you know, in the first year, you will be introduced, for example, to the ontology, utilitarianism, or virtue ethics. On the other hand, in the second year, you're actually studying the philosophers who are the founding fathers of these theories, and you will get, you know, to read pretty difficult philosophical texts. And then you can choose other modules like philosophy of religion, a module in political philosophy called freedom and equality. You can do philosophy of science. I won't go in much detail, but as you can see from the mixture of paintings and, on the other hand, photographs, the message that we're trying to give you is that what we do is to give you a mix of modules that look at the history of philosophy, and on the other hand, of modules that look at cutting-edge problems in which are discussed now. When you get to the third year, then you choose all your modules. You can continue to do history of philosophy and epistemology and metaphysics too. You can focus on metaphysics. What is metaphysics? Metaphysics is the study of what there is or exists. So for example, here is a question that comes from metaphysics. We take for granted the existence of tables, chairs, windows, bottles, and so on and so forth. Yeah? But do they really exist? That is what the metaphysicians ask. You know, they are asking a question about what really exists. If tables are made of wood, and wood has a certain molecular structure, then is it not the case that what really exists is not the table, but rather the molecule which make up the wood, arranged table-wise? Yeah. So is there a conflict, if you like, between the scientific image about what exists, yeah, and what philosophers sometimes call the manifest image, yeah, the world as it appears to us in our everyday life? So this, for example, is a question that often comes up in metaphysics. You can do philosophy of art. You can focus on some 20th century philosophers, yeah, or study one philosopher in a great deal of depth. That's 40. You can do philosophy of language. And as a single honor student, you will have to write a dissertation in philosophy. If you're a dual honor student, you will have to write a dissertation in one of your subjects. You can write it in both subjects, but you will have to write one, at least in one of your subjects. Now, all these modules are research-led, which, I mean, all our teaching is research-led, but especially in the case of the third year modules, what it means to say is that they are research-led is that they are taught by lecturers who are publishing in that areas, who are experts, who publish books or articles in that particular area. So the third year really, together with the dissertation, prepares you for further studies in the subject. And we do have very many students who cannot learn philosophy alone and then continue beyond it. We have about 60 to 70 students in the first year. Yeah, so it's a friendly, it's a smallish and friendly place, and the class sizes are not very large. They vary between 10 and 15, maybe maximum 20. The lectures will be a little bit bigger perhaps. And as you probably all know, or you might, I don't know whether, it's usually the parents who know, Keele came first for 3 consecutive years at the top of the National Student Survey. The National Student Survey is a survey that is carried out at the end of the third year, so every student's filled it in, and it really describes the nature of the experience, of the student experience at Keele. And we do have a committed team of lecturers who often win or are nominated for teaching excellence awards. Now, if you are taking a single honours degree, then what you have to do is to take 4 modules in philosophy in the first year, 4 in the second, 4 in the third, plus you have to, those are compulsory, yeah? Plus you have to choose another 8 electives, and 5 of these, at least, will have to be in philosophy. So, even if you do a single honour degree in philosophy, there is still room for you to choose some outside options, and it's not a bad idea to have a few outside options, to have an idea of what goes on in other subjects, because often philosophy comments on other subjects, yeah? So if you think about the philosophy of science, yeah, scientists develop scientific theories, philosophers ask, what is scientific method? What is the method that scientists use in order to generate scientific knowledge and make some scientific discoveries? If you're a dual honours student, then you can choose to have a 50-50 split between your subjects, okay? In most cases, you can do that, but also you have some flexibility so that you can still vary a little bit within a certain range. We have very consistently good external examiners reports. I don't want to bore you by reading them. So I don't know. I'll pick this one in pink. I would like to record my commendation of the Keele philosophers for their excellent teaching, their fair and rigorous assessment, and the well-organized instructional assessment process as a whole. Okay, so they go on like that. It's probably a little bit boring for you, but we have plenty of them. Now, apart from going to classes and to seminars, we have quite a lively extracurricular environment. So, for example, we have the Royal Institute of Philosophy lectures, which we call RIPs, but I reassure you that nobody dies. What we do is that we invite speakers from other universities, and we ask them to give talks, and we ask them to be accessible to our students who do come very often. And for example here, this is Graham Forbes. So he was an undergraduate student at Keele. He then got funding at Sheffield to do a PhD. I remember that he wrote to me when he was there and say, "Oh, philosophy is the only subject for which you get paid for staring out of the window." And he is now a lecturer at Kent. At the end of the year, we have Aspire Ball. Spire is the name of the school in which philosophy is. Those 3 girls there, Millie, Gemma, and Verity, have done very well in life. They're all employed, and I will read you a statement from Verity later. She works in business, and she bought her first house less than a year after finding her first job. Millie and Gemma have gone into teaching. Okay, I don't know whether you're interested in the study abroad program. I'll just say something very, very brief about it. If you want to know more, there are lectures that the university offers, talks about the study abroad program. As a Keele student, you have the opportunity to go abroad, normally for a semester. Most of our students go to either the States or Canada, because they are English-speaking countries, but now further afield to Australia, and also to many other countries which offer degrees in English. There isn't a guaranteed place onto the program, but it's not too difficult to get on it. So provided that you're in good academic standing and you've passed your modules and you're a good ambassador for Keele, you can get it on it. And generally, it's a very positive experience, and you will be guided through it. So you will be contacted at the beginning of the first year. You will have to take a module. You will be helped with the visa requirements and the financial arrangements and so on. I'll say something very, very briefly here about careers. Now, clearly philosophy doesn't prepare you for a particular career. It's not like computing or law. But on the other hand, it provides you with the kind of skills which are needed to do well in whatever job you are going to go for. Now, what are these skills? First of all, they are critical and analytical skills. And you might learn them studying other subjects, but they really, as I said, they are the bread and butter of a philosophical education. We don't give you knowledge, yeah? We turn you into thinkers. Rationality and reasonableness are important skills. Now, what do we mean by this? Now, if you're a philosopher, then you should, if not before, by the end of your degree, have evidence for your views and act on the basis of arguments and claims that you can justify. So in this sense, you will be a reasonable person. And that will make you into somebody who is very good at working in teams. Because the worst thing about working in a team is to encounter somebody who is dogmatic, yeah, and who sticks to a view no matter what. You should have good comprehension skills, because if you can read difficult philosophical texts from the 17th and 18th century, or from if you can read Aristotle and Kant and so on, then it'll be easy for you to get the gist of Word documents. You should be an original thinker, yeah? Not in the sense that you will be the next Wittgenstein, yeah, or the next Heidegger. I don't know what philosophers you know. The next Rorty, yeah? But in the sense that you will think for yourself. And finally, you should have good oral communication and debating skills, because that's how philosophy is taught. That's how philosophy seminars are conducted. And philosophy actually, surprisingly, might actually make you money. It might earn you some money. Now, perhaps there was a time when employers were slightly suspicious of philosophers, because they thought that there were absent-minded people who couldn't do up their shoelaces. But they have definitely changed. And there's been a lot of literature which has shown that philosophy graduates are very good at securing graduate jobs. And so there is this article, which is a little bit old, but I keep it here because I like the title, and it's called "I Think, Therefore I Earn." And it is a pun. Some of you will recognize it is a pun on Descartes' Meditations. I think, therefore I am. So, Keele has some fantastic statistics concerning graduate employment. So if you go through some of the general talks, you will find that it's at the very top, yeah, in terms of graduate employment. And philosophy students do very, very well. Now, what this chart shows you is what happens 6 months after graduation. So, for example, this is a typical year. 6 months after graduation, 54% of students are in full-time employment, and 34% of them, that's a very high percentage, is going into graduate studies. Not just in philosophy, because some of our students are taking dual honors, so they might be doing graduate studies in their other subjects. As I said, philosophy doesn't prepare you for a specific career, but nonetheless, it gives you skills that will enable you to secure a career. So I want to read you a testimonial from Verity. It was the girl in the picture of the spire ball. Yeah? This is what she says. She says, having completed the degree, I moved back home with parents, rent-free and food in the fridge, and started applying for jobs. I registered on various graduate sites, such as Grad Southwest, and work with the skills I had. My plan had been to get a foot in the door and work up from there. Philosophy is held in high esteem within business because of its high level of thinking and analytical skills, which made answering application questions easier. I found a job within business development, which at the time I had never heard of, but the skill set was similar to what you need to be good at uni research, analytical thinking, strong written communication, etc. So I applied and was invited to interview. I was then offered the role, accepted, and I moved to Wiltshire. I've been there over a year now, climbing the career ladder, and I'm now in the process of buying my first house. So we have many success stories of philosophers who have gone into business, and you know, when I'm contacted for references, I'm always surprised about the kind of jobs that our students go in. I mean, I remember once I was contacted by somebody who wanted to become an air traffic controller. Yeah? So, as I said, we don't prepare you for a specific career, but there are many careers that are open to philosophers. We've got many, many testimonials. If you want to pick up a leaflet, they are all there, but it sounds like bragging, or it sounds like I've paid them. But I will read you one from Ken Pepper. He's one of the students who went on to study philosophy, and he said, "Philosophy isn't just interesting to study, it's addictive. You can't help to know more even after your degree is over." And which always makes me think that, you know, if you need a drug habit, then philosophy it's a good one to get. He continued, and he did first a master's and then I think a PhD. So we've got many, many, many testimonials here. But I think I will stop here. I will just leave this slide on with some information about further reading. I think I'll just perhaps take some questions. Reminding you also that Richard and Rose are here and are very, very happy to answer your questions.